All right, today we're going to talk about HEROMOMs and alcohol. All right, you guys, I want to introduce to you my husband, Aaron. And the reason why Aaron is our guest today is because Aaron actually has a very extensive expert background in alcohol. Aaron worked for a 5-star resort for a decade, and during that time he was a certified sommelier.
Sommelier.
I didn't want to mess that one up. Damn it, I'm practicing everything. So we wanted to pick his brain, especially with, just in general, just having seasons of holidays and, weekends, parties and whatnots, gatherings, whenever alcohol is involved. And as a hero mom, for us, that's something that we want in balance with like everything else in our life. We want that in balance. So we don't want to necessarily have to cut it out if we enjoy it, but we need to understand how to bring it in intelligently so that it works with what it is that we're trying to build out to have our best life ever. So we're going to get educated today on all these different kinds of alcohols, and we're going to talk about the quality of alcohols. We're going to talk about tricks and recipes, and we're also going to be talking about the various different types of alcohol that are out there. There's so many different kinds, and there's always new brands and trends coming out. So how do we differentiate, which is what? So let's start first with quality, because when it comes to quality of alcohol, there's a false belief about this. And I've never been much of I don't know a lot about alcohols. It's not really a language that I speak. And I know like Kelly loves wine and Jenny really doesn't drink at all. So
I loved beer.
Yeah. She used to drink, and so she has some knowledge about some of the different types of beer, or beer and alcohol. But Aaron, can you tell us from your expert background, when it comes to brands, like what's the best brand? What's the worst brand? What's the lies that we've been told?
All right, so I used to work at a resort that was, according to Forbes, top 6 in the world. Place was pretty insane. They had one of the rarest cognacs on earth. It sold for $850 a shot. So let's just say I've socialized and served billionaires and people like that. So I've seen every version of snob that you can possibly imagine. And what I can tell consistently is the vast majority of people, especially the snobs, really don't know what's going on. And I have a million stories, but I'll share one of my favorites. So this guy's having some wine, house cab. At that place, the cheapest Cabernet is like $16 a glass. It's actually a damn good Cabernet, right? And then his little snobby buddy shows up and goes, I'll have some Duckhorn Merlot. Because Duckhorn Merlot is the Merlot for billionaires in James Bond and stuff like that, right?
Oh,
so he's drinking Duckhorn Merlot, and he goes, you're drinking that cab? That's swell? What are you doing? Duckhorn's great. Oh, it's so tasty. Da, da, da. Anyways, the snob goes to the restroom. His buddy orders 2 of the house cab. Doesn't really think twice, but he goes, well, have another round 2 of these, right? Not really thinking about it. His buddy comes back. Now he's drinking the swill, right? The cab, the cheap stuff, the cheap $16 glass stuff. And he's going, oh, this Duckhorn's so good. I can't believe you're drinking that cab, right? So he's drinking the swill and thinks it's Duckhorn Merlot. It's not even the same grape. It's a Merlot, not a Cabernet. Now, Merlots and Cabernets aren't light years apart. They're both from the same family of reds. They're both bold grapes, but still, give me a freaking break. And literally thousands of examples like this. At the end of the day, drink what you like.
Did the guy ever find out that he... Okay.
Never. Couple glasses of faux Duckhorn Merlot. It was actually swill cab. It was actually a premium Cabernet. It's just way cheaper in cost than Duckhorn Merlot. Big flipping deal. Now that said, Duckhorn Merlot tastes better than barefoot Merlot, right? It's like $3 chuck or whatever it is. Yeah. But only for the first couple glasses, right? I mean, you get 2 or 3 glasses in, well, quality is kind of irrelevant, but Frank isn't so good. So it really doesn't matter.
Okay, I have a question though. Like we're talking like big dollar differences
Yes.
in a glass. What about like hangover differences? Like,
Great question. So let's take a quick segue into brands for spirits. So multiple distillate vodka is going to be one of the cleanest things out there. Like Sky Vodka is like a 6-7 level fractional distillation. Smirnoff is triple distilled. Manhattan is quintuple distilled.
okay, what does distilled mean? Like because I'm not a spirit drinker, but if you say distilled, I picture like distilled water, you know, like is it that same process?
You know, it's funny. Yes, brilliant. Emerald, Kelly. Emerald means analytical. Yes. Same thing. Distilled water is boiled, right? So water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything else that doesn't have that boiling point stays behind. That would be all the minerals, calcium, crap like that. That's chlorine, for that matter, in the water. So just water comes out. When you distill alcohol, ethyl alcohol, which is the alcohol that we drink, has a specific boiling point. You have what's called the heads and tails, right? So the heads have a lower boiling point. So you have this alcoholic, essentially a beverage, right, in a distillation tank. Now, vodka is made from a type of, it could be technically what's called a wine or a beer. Everything in spirits is beer or wine initially, right? If it's a grain, it makes a beer. If it's a fruit, it makes a type of wine. And of course, grapes are our favorite types of fruits to make wine with. If you take either of those, if you take a wine made with fruits and you distill it, all the different compounds that have a lower boiling point are going to boil away. And then you get down to ethanol, right? Then you have just ethanol. You take that, and then everything else you leave behind, right? So actually, if you take alcohol, is essentially vodka is usually like a beer, for example. Like if it's made from grains like wheat or potato or whatever, it's technically becomes a beer first, and is distilled into vodka, so you just end up with ethanol, right?
Sounds like gas.
Yes, but if you take like cognac, for example, if you take a wine and distill it, you get cognac. But then Ciroc vodka is made from grapes. And so vodka you can kind of make from anything, but we'll get to that in a second. We're not quite there yet. But in short, a multiple distillate spirit, vodka being numero uno, is going to be the cleanest thing you can drink as far as the least impurities. While alcohol is essentially a toxin to our bodies, it's the least toxic of all the types of alcohol. So if you drink beer or wine, for example, that has not been distilled, because if you distill it, it's no longer beer or wine, right? It's just some kind of distillate. If you drink it, it's got more impurities by default than anything else. But again, there's a very small amount of these other impurities, right? And so technically, wine or beer will give you more of a hangover than vodka as a whole. And like I said, Sky is probably the cleanest vodka out there. Now, without going into more detail, that's a good way to put it, is that, vodka is about the clean, which is why all of our recipes have vodka.
We're going to talk about recipes pretty soon, but it's just really interesting, in any kind of industry, where we're purchasing products, brand name is absolutely one of the things that we use as a gauge of how we pick products that we like. So we associate different things with them, but when it comes to marketing and promotion, certainly whoever has the most money is going to be able to promote themselves to look like the best brand. So it's important that we understand what qualifies a high quality and what doesn't, or what, essentially just what qualifies a good brand, a solid brand, based on what it is that you want out of it. So when it comes to alcohol, Aaron, and when we're talking about our health and that balance, right? Like Kelly said, can we have a different kind of a hangover or a different, after effect of drinking, different qualities, wanting to know what those kinds of things are, as well as taste and purity and just in general, enjoying the experience as a whole, before, during, and after. What things do we need to look for with alcohol? We talked about the distilled hard alcohols, but what about, let's go into the types of alcohol that are available to us. So first, can you just list the different types of alcohol?
Well, there's a gazillion types, but in general, let's talk about the most consumed stuff, right?
Categories.
Let's go the most consumed categories in some particular order. And I'm gonna state them in a certain specific order that will make more sense later. But hard alcohol, right? And so that's vodka, various whiskeys, gin, all of that, wines and champagne, beers, and then cocktails. And so with hard alcohol, these distillates, right? You take some rotten fruit or grains, and it's got a bunch of toxic types of alcohol, and you distill it and then get the drinkable part that's the least unhealthy. And then that's going to become your whiskeys, your scotch, your American whiskey, Canadian whiskey, gin, vodka, etc. Now, mind you, like I said before, vodka being kind of the most basic alcoholic beverage out there, vodka many times is called a neutral spirit. Vodka is in almost every kind of other hard alcohol. They cut it with vodka. Vodka is neutral, and so they cut it with vodka so the flavor is not so intense. So many, if not most, whiskeys, scotches, gins, and all that, even tequila, is cut with vodka. And then gin is just vodka with fermented and distilled junipers in it. That's gin.
It gets you green.
They'll flavor you, right?
I can't
Flavor with other stuff like fennel and lemon and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's just vodka with distilled juniper. Next one, and so those are going to be the lowest glycemic. They have no sugar in it. Vodka, all these distillates, whiskey and all that has no sugar unless some's been added for flavor purposes. Like if you had some goofball like raspberry flavored vodka, which tastes pretty good, mind you, a lot of the times, it doesn't have any sugar. Now, the next one down would be like wines and champagne. Now, this is the really cool part. Champagne only has like 2 grams of carbs per 6 ounce pour. 6 ounces is a standard pour, especially what's called a dry or brut or extra brut champagne, which is typically what we drink. That's most of the champagnes out there. If it tastes sweet, it's got extra sugar in it, and that's going to turn to fat. Next one down would be like your most popular red and white wines. Cabernets, Merlots, Syrah on the red side, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, etc. on the white side. If it doesn't taste sweet, it only has about 3, maximum 3.5 grams of carbs per 6 ounce pour. So that's not bad. That's not too bad on the glycemic index. But then when you get to like Rieslings, Gewürztraminer, like an American white Zinfandel, those taste sweet. They got a bunch of sugar in them.
I like those.
Yeah, it tastes good. But we figured out an awesome cheat. If you take these drier reds...
Oh, we're going to talk about the tricks later.
Okay. Cut that. Move forward. Maybe rewind. All right,
okay.
beers. Beers are a mixed bag. If you get like a Coors Light or a basic American lager, it doesn't have that many grams of carbs in it. But then if you get like an Imperial Russian Stout or something like that, and or any beer or apple cider for that matter that tastes sweet, if it tastes sweet, it's got a bunch of sugar in it.
All right, I have a quick question.
Please.
So again, I don't speak alcohol. I don't understand. What I noticed though is that there's a million, like there are whole stores dedicated just to alcohol. There's so many of them. Like,
thank God.
And so like there's Bevmo and whatever. I don't know what areas you live in. Costco has a huge section just dedicated to that. They have liquor stores, the full stores just dedicated to that and whatever snacks and stuff. And you just see bottles and bottles and aisles and rows of all these different kinds. Price ranges all over the place. And it looks to me like they're organized in sections of the types of alcohol, right? Or even within the wines, they're organized by the types of wines that they are. But one of the things I've noticed is that they're all different colors, and the bottles are all different kinds of shapes, and maybe that's just branding. But sometimes I feel like certain types of alcohols traditionally come in certain shapes of bottles too. And then let's just talk about the glasses for a second. I just don't even get it. Like there's a million different, the right kind of glass that you're supposed to, like a person who is an aficionado or an enthusiast about all these different kinds of drinks have to have like an entire like garage of cabinets just to house all the different kinds of proper glasses to drink with these things.
That's ridiculous.
I know. I will drink any of them in this, and it's fine. Like, it doesn't last long enough to make a difference for me. Like, I can't tell a difference, and maybe I'm just like making myself look really ignorant right now by saying
Well,
that.
it's filled with vodka. It should last you a little bit, I think.
No,
Hopefully.
whatever. I could drink anything out of a wine glass, and it doesn't even matter what kind it is. I enjoy it just the same. I don't drink a lot, so it's, maybe that's part of it too. But maybe also I just don't have like a mature palate to understand the difference of the differences that could make. But let's talk for a second about why are there so many different colors of something that's called the same thing? At least it seems like it's like wine. Why are there white ones and red ones and different colors of red and that kind of thing?
Do you mean the color of the wine bottles themselves?
No.
The wine in them.
Actual liquid inside the bottles.
Oh,
White wine, red wine.
Well, wines for the most part, because of the varietals used, the species themselves, they're either going to be red or white. But there's a really, and the reds, some are lighter. Like, in other words, a Pinot Noir or a Beaujolais Nouveau, for example, which is this like kind of early harvest wine that's really famous that comes out of France in November of every year. It's like lower alcohol, a much lighter wine. Those, if you hold them up to light, look a little bit lighter because they are. The flavor's lighter, the alcohol's lighter. It's almost like a diluted, watered-down wine, if you will. Whereas Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Syrah, wines like that are very bold. So literally there's more to it. It's more dense with flavor and structure and all that. So if you hold that bottle up to the light, you can't see as much through it. Or even, for that matter, like a ruby red port. Super dense, even more dense still in terms of flavor, richness, all of that. And I personally think Tony Ports are the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I like that.
That's toasted.
But they're sweet.
Tony Port,
Okay, so I'm going to ask a really stupid question right now. And I'm sitting here going, I have to ask it. You're talking about red wine, white wine. And so my mind is like stirring here. And I'm like, I just assume that, red wine was made from darker grapes and white wine was made from whiter grapes. Isn't that true?
It's actually a brilliant question. That brings up a point I wanted to make. Technically, the juice from red wines doesn't look that dark. The color, for the most part, comes from the grapes. To give you an example of this, if you get a type of sparkling wine, or champagne technically, called Blanc de Noir, white from red, it's a white champagne that comes from red grapes. So if you press the red grapes, it looks pretty much like a white wine. And so they don't give the juice any time at all on the skins, as they call it, so that the tannins and the coloration from the skin go into the white wine. And so a Cabernet would probably look more like a white wine if they didn't leave it on the grapes. However, those grape skins impart a lot of different flavors, and in particular tannins. The tannic acid in those skins helps it to be preserved, basically. So they keep like bacteria and molds and stuff from growing, so you can age that red wine for an eternity and grow a lot of complexity in the flavor without it going bad. But great question. Red wines, the color comes more from the skins than the juice. And then white wine skins don't really have any color in it to impart onto the wine, and so they stay looking white.
So that brings me really quick to another question for you. You know how I am with my foods and what we consume, and I'm always reading ingredients and labels, and I'm really picky about ingredients. So when it comes to alcohol, like when I drank beer before, honestly, like I never looked at the ingredients and understood what was in it. I just drank it for the flavor. I did it because the way that it made me feel. That was it. But now you're getting into wine, beer, vodka, cognac, all that stuff. Are there any harmful chemicals in alcohol?
Great question. So again, when you get to like a multiple distillate vodka, we should own stock in Sky, as we're basically promoting it at this point. But Sky vodka is one of the cleanest things out there you can drink. Probably a couple of the worst things. One of the things is beers that contain barley or wheat. Barley and wheat have glutens. So now you have this thing with a bunch of carbs, and then God knows what else they added, plus you've got glutens in it. So you got a couple stuff causing inflammation in the body, plus weight gain and whatnot. if you get to like a mixed cocktail, and we never got to that before, your typical margarita at a restaurant with the sweet and sour mix probably has 30 to 60 grams of carbs per serving. I mean, it's like triple obesity maker. And we'll talk a little bit later about how alcohol affects weight gain. It's not as bad as we think, and you will learn why later. But absolutely, I mean, starting from, obviously, vodka is going to be one of the cleanest. And any distilled spirit, even tequila for that matter, as far as we know, we don't know what they tell us from Jalisco where they make the stuff. But at the end of the day, we don't know what they're adding. I mean, there's been people that died in Mexico because they were adding this toxic type of alcohol into the beverage to make it cheaper to make, and tourists were dying in Mexico.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so that's why it's important. Buy it over here where it's probably been inspected and stuff like that. You're best off with like a multiple distillate vodka. Mixed drinks are the absolute worst. Some beers are pretty bad. Wine's got sulfites sometimes, and yet in most studies, people that live close to be 100 or after, many of them drink, not heavily, but they drink some wine throughout the course of their life. Europeans, for example,
Red wine.
They drink wine for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, and while they're sleeping. So
my ex-father-in-law had red wine every single day. And, you know, I mean, he didn't obviously.
Not in excess, right? That balance.
Yeah.
But he made his own also at home. They made
Impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be a real Italian. If you didn't
Uncle
do that.
Jesse making moonshine. Awesome. In Illinois. But
okay,
yeah.
what's with the worm? Like, there's a worm. Like, honestly, I know here I'm talking about chemicals. Now there's freaking bugs in drinks. Like, what is that?
That's a good one.
I think that's mezcal. That's just a traditional thing. And allegedly the worm has more alcohol in it, so if you eat the worm, I've eaten the worm for full disclosure. Okay. If you're in Matamoros in 1989, you know, and you're Texas on spring break, you kind of have to. Not that I've ever done that or been there. I'm just saying you did. But, you got to do it.
You swallow the goldfish too, don't you?
I've never swallowed a goldfish.
I have a question about the mixed drinks though. So if you're taking a really good vodka, like I don't know, Sky, and you're creating a mixed drink, you can create your own bad thing, because if you're taking that sugary juice or whatever, I don't know, vodka, I don't mix a lot of drinks, but like vodka orange juice or cranberry, I think that's one. So then you're getting all those extra sugars, which in turn become very bad for you. So you could take a really good vodka and make a really bad drink out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You just like ruin the vodka. It's like putting
well, you ruined the I guess the cleanness of it. Not necessarily ruined, like I'm sure it's palatable and tastes good, right? But what you sacrifice then is the quality that you know, why are you even making it for yourself unless you want to like make your specific recipe that you love? But for us, we make our own because specifically we want to control the quality and cleanness of it so we can enjoy it without, you know, with having the least amount of negative effects possible.
And calories too. I mean, does that come into play here too? The least amount of calories too?
Yeah, let me mention one thing about those juices that Kelly mentioned, then we'll go into calories, the caloric content of alcohol, for example. Cranberry juice, first ingredient, highest ingredient is water. Second is high fructose corn syrup, which is literally the worst kind of sugar you can consume for glycemic index and also for inflammation in the body. It's also one of the worst carbs for your body to metabolize. Yep. Brutal stuff. In most juices, the second highest ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. So absolutely stay away from that at all costs. If you can find an unsweetened cranberry juice that has very little sugar and adds stevia to it, wait, I'm not supposed to mention that yet. Let me just X that out. It's going to be way better for you. And then orange juice is one of the number one biggest misconceptions in the United States. Lemons about orange juice. Eating orange juice, as far as the effect on the body for weight gain, is the same as eating a freaking candy bar. About the same amount of carbs, about the same glycemic index. Not only that, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, competes with sugar for absorption. So when you take all those sugars that exist inherently with fresh squeezed orange juice with nothing else added to it, you're actually getting much less of the vitamin C that's listed on the freaking package. Eat a whole orange. It's got pulp and all kinds of physical factors in it that slow down absorption and lower the glycemic index. Way better for you. So chop those oranges up, but just don't juice the freaking thing. Avoid that several costs.
Yeah, right. That's why mixed drinks are last on your list.
Exactly.
Right? As far as,
in a restaurant, forget about it. 99% of the time, simple syrup is high fructose corn syrup or some equally horrible syrup. It's freaking syrup, right? That's one of the main ingredients in tons of drinks. So
hummingbird food.
There's so many different colors and they're so pretty. So, you know, sometimes it's just cool to have this really fluorescent blue drink in this cute little glass.
Artificial colors.
What's going on
I was about to say, give the bottle to James and be like, oh, FD&C blue, FD&C red.
I'm teeing her up. I'm teeing her up on that one for sure because they are looking, but.
Go back to cranberry juice for a second. Trader Joe's has a pure, I mean, literally, it is straight cranberry juice. That is it, because you know me, I'm reading ingredients. I don't care. I don't read the front of the bottle. I turn it around. I want to see what's in the ingredients. That cranberry juice is just clean. I mean, that's what
you've gotten it before?
We've gotten it before. We just use
it for sweet?
We use it for salad dressing. It's not sweet. No.
Yeah, so it's going to be bitter as all hell. Which is fine. That's great. That's going to be super healthy. The vitamin C in it, you can use all the flavonoids and whatnot. And then you can add some stevia to that, as we'll show you later, and it will taste amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you want to use it for. Like, we use it as an ingredient in a recipe. I couldn't really see myself drinking it straight, but maybe adding it into a cocktail for flavoring.
Sure. So let's talk really quickly about calories from alcohol. They list alcohol as having something like 7 calories per gram versus 4 calories per gram for proteins, 9 calories per gram for fats. But that's a huge misconception. The body treats alcohol as a toxin, even though it's generally healthy for us, depending on which study you're looking at, in small quantities, even if consistently taken in like 1 drink a day or whatever. Your body still wants to get rid of it, but it has to metabolize all of it on some level. So basically, what the study shows you, if you just have 1 drink a day, your body will use a little bit of that for energy, and the rest you breathe out and you pee out and whatnot. It kind of passes through. So it doesn't really add that much energy to the body. But one of the problems is it literally stops ketosis, any kind of ketone creation, right? Because the liver, which is partially responsible for ketosis, says, wait a minute, we just took in some alcohol. Let's get rid of that first and stop everything else. It's like if a car crashes into an office, all the work stops in the office until they get the car back out and then fix the freaking wall, then they can move on with their day.
And the reason for that really quick is because it's toxic and the body's trying to save your life by getting rid of the toxins in your body first, because your body's job is to keep you as healthy and alive as possible. So this is why the disorientation when you drink, because it's toxic. Your body is like freaking out, going, oh my God, there's toxins going on. We got to get it out quickly. So all its resources are being shifted to process and get it out of your body. And the reason why it stops fat burn is because it will burn the alcohol for energy first before it will continue to burn your body's fat as a source of energy. If you are on a ketogenic diet or a low-carb diet, for example, if you're eating high carbs as your regular part of your diet, forget it. You're just like, you're slowing or stopping fat burn, period, already with too many carbs, but then add alcohol on top of that, you're just pushing more fat storage into your fat cells. So I apologize. Hopefully I didn't.
No, great analogy. Great stuff there. Crazier still, I read about a study in the 50s to behavior. They called it like the alcohol diet. And what they realized was that if people drank hard alcohol, instead of eating all this extra carbs and food, they actually lost weight. And the reason being, again, that we don't get that much energy out of alcohol. There's a big misconception that your liver turns it into sugar. It absolutely does not. It turns it into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is a basic energy source throughout the body. But for the most part, the body gets rid of it. And here's the catch for you absolute alcoholics drinking out of a paper bag in an alleyway right now. The more alcohol you drink at one time, the less your body uses as energy. It just uses that basic first drink or two, and the rest is just getting rid of it through peeing and breath. Craziness. So I just read that this morning, doing some quick research, so I have some good intel here. But please, nobody, don't try the hard alcohol diet. Yeah, we're not going to do any beta tests on that.
Like, what are you promoting, Aaron?
Well, and I think to bring this
So basically, if I just drink a certain amount, hit my limit, it doesn't matter after that how much I drink because it's not going to do anything to my body.
Exactly.
And I think to bring this full circle is, I mean, we're not advocating going out and obviously drinking the hard alcohol diet. It's that time of year. We often have times of the year, whether it's birthday parties, holidays, things like that, where we have to be around alcohol. And as Hero Moms, we're trying our best to be our best selves, but we may want to have a drink or two now and again, especially at these times of year. And I think it's just helping us to decipher what's the best thing for us if we choose to go to the alcohol, knowing that our body's going to take care of that first and stop anything else that we've been doing for ourselves. So all the hard work that you're doing up till now, it's going to take a little break. And you just need to know that, and you need to understand what your best options are. And I think that's, we're laughing and we're talking about different things, but when it comes right down to it, if you're coming in the middle of this, we just want you to make the best choice for yourself.
Yeah,
that's a great way of putting it, Kelly. Thank you for that concise explanation.
Little Girl Scout, making sure we're all on the track. No, but it's
a little brownie pin for that one.
You earned a badge. But it's important for you guys to understand, ask yourself, like, what are my goals right now? Like, what am I shooting for in life before you make a choice like that, where alcohol absolutely is going to be something that alters what it is that your body is trying to do. So, think about what is the purpose of why I'm consuming this. And you don't have to get like all philosophical or anything like that, but you should be really asking yourself this question about anything that you bring into your life and especially anything that you put into your body. It shouldn't be a mindless, thoughtless thing of what you're putting into your body. You have your one body for your whole life. And, you've got to think about how you're going to keep it healthy and how you're going to keep it running well for you as you get older, especially at our age. We're in our mid to late 40s and we're thinking about, the last 30 to 40 years of our life and how we want to set our bodies up to be able to experience it the way that we want life to be experienced when we're older. And we know that alcohol ages you when it's not in balance and when you're not thinking about how you're consuming it. Like, you should be thinking about how you consume it. So be responsible, not just be responsible in terms of don't drive drunk, of course that too, but be responsible in terms of what it does for your body on a nutritional or an anti-nutritional level, what it's breaking down, the systems that it's slowing and hurting inside of you. And that's why we wanted you guys to know the stuff that, that an expert has studied. And Aaron has studied that as
sommelier.
Sounds so good.
But on the nutrition side of it, he's done his own research because he's just passionate about all of us are very passionate about that. So he studies that on his own. And so he's adding all of that other stuff in there. But we've been talking about alcohol the whole time. Now, some of you guys, like Jenny, don't drink, but you still want to. And I used to not drink. And for me, I didn't.
So I came on.
I didn't drink because I don't like the taste of alcohol. I like sweets. And to me, I just don't get it. It tastes like wine, tastes like rotten grapes. I love grapes, fresh and sweet as fruit as they're supposed to be. Like, why are you making them rotten and then squeezing the shizzle buns out of them and then eating them, or whatever the order of
it is? Rotten grapes, for full disclosure.
Okay, but it tastes rotten. Like, it's stuff like somebody forgot about, and then they're like, oh, for whatever reason, we'll just drink this. And then I would have been like, no, this is bad, throw it out. That's what we do with the other stuff that's old. So anyway, like, I didn't get it, right? But then I started tasting the ones that were sweeter. And I was like, oh, this tastes like juice. Like, this is good. But then, of course, then all the issues of it being out of balance with my health goals. So I had to learn how to enjoy it and have the balance that works with the goals for my health. So but some people don't want to go through the efforts of that. And I'll give you some tricks on how I figured how to enjoy that without being detrimental to my health goals. But some people like Jenny will just choose, like, I don't want to drink that, but they still want to have fun with fun drinks, be around adults, having adult beverages. So the options there would be non-alcoholic beverages. And even though it sounds harmless, there are actually some that are out there that are really bad for you still. So you have to be aware of those too. Like, who was it, Kelly? Was it you that was telling me about non-alcoholic beverage options out there that you saw?
Sparkling water.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about sparkling water, and I was actually looking for, we like to have that around the house on occasion. So I was looking, and because of Jenny, I was looking at the ingredients, and I looked at it, and there were 4 grams of carbs in water. I was like, what?
Crazy.
I can't even remember what brand it was, and I probably wouldn't say anyway, but just turn the box around and look at it. I put it away and grabbed something that was, all natural, this and that. It was 0 down everything, had, natural lemon or lime flavoring, whatever, and grabbed that. But, if you didn't know or didn't realize that you were drinking a can of sparkling water that had 4 carbs in it, you could really mess yourself up having a couple cans of those throughout an evening and not even realize that, you were doing that to yourself. So it's important just to know, turn the can around or know the brands that you like or whatever, but just make sure that you're looking at that label, because water should just be water.
Excellent point.
Mm-hmm. And you need to, and the reason why Kelly brings up carbs is because it doesn't matter your age, but especially when you're, in the second half of your life, like we are, you need to be qualifying those carbs. Like, they need to have a purpose for you. They need to mean something for your body to add, nutrients to make it stronger. And there are really great carbs out there. And there are some carbs that are really, really, really bad for you, you guys. So fight for the quality of those carbs. That's why Kelly's like 4 carbs. She doesn't even want to put 4 carbs that aren't good carbs in her body. Why? Because those just 4 carbs can make a big difference, especially 4 carbs here, 4 carbs there. Over time, like, it will wreck your health. So
I can eat a lot of vegetables at the buffet table for those 4 carbs that I just drank, so yeah.
So make your carbs count, and don't waste them in situations like that by thinking, 4 carbs, no big deal. But like, if 30 carbs is what you're shooting for the day, 4 carbs is like a massive amount of what you want to be putting in your body. But that's a whole nother podcast. But I just wanted to explain that for you if you didn't understand why Kelly's making a big deal out of 4 carbs in water. What were those 4 carbs from even? Could you tell from the ingredients list? Do you remember?
I can't even remember. If I do happen to see it again, I'll put it in the comments just so people know.
It could have been from the natural juices.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. It could have been from whatever flavoring they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it clear, or did it have a color?
I think it was clear.
Okay. Yeah. So in terms of non-alcoholic drinks, like I've heard of, I think O'Doul's or something like that, like a
Michelob Ultra. Well, no, I'm sorry, that's low carb. Never mind, scratch that.
I know these are low alcohol.
That's what I used to drink.
I'm not gonna have these. I just had a pack.
Why is Jenny so drunk? Michelob Ultra.
That's what's like the coloring in here. It's really not tea. It's not.
That's straight vodka. I know, I can see that a mile away.
So like some of our recipes that we're going to share with you guys right now are ones that you can make with or without alcohol.
Absolutely.
Which is what I love about them, because so if you just want to have something fun in a fancy little glass, or if you just want something that tastes really good, that's typically only offered in alcoholic drinks, then, these could be potentially options for you. You want to create some fun drinks for a party for your guests, but you don't want them to have alcohol. These are all really great options. So let's get into those, like, tricks and recipes. So I want to share my trick that Aaron helped me figure out, because he knows so much about the different wines and stuff, and call me whatever, just wanting to be like a people-pleasing social fitter inner. I I want to have that wine glass in my hand when I'm at an adult party. I don't want to be the only one that's like, no, I have my water bottle. I'll just drink my water while all of you guys are having fun drinking adult beverages, because I'm such a wuss and I can't appreciate the cultural experience of an elegant alcohol, whatever, adult beverage.
I do it with you.
I just felt like a child, because I didn't like the taste of it, So that's on me. I put that pressure on myself, but I was determined to find something that I enjoyed that didn't ruin my health goals. So Erin taught me a lot about the low-carb wines. I tasted a bunch of them and hated all of them. And I couldn't understand, like, white, red, it didn't matter. I just didn't like them. They were dry. They were, I just didn't like them. So what we did was we took my favorite sweetener. This is my favorite. It's Select Stevia brand. And stevia is an important ingredient in our lives for those of us who follow a low carb and no sugar lifestyle, because it gives us that sweet, especially those of us who love sweets. I'm former big girl, like sweets were my thing. And even though I'm trying to not be a big girl anymore, I still love sweets. So this was how I was able to experience sweets without having to have sugar. And not all stevia is the created equal, in my opinion, in terms of taste. But I like this one, and they have a liquid and they have a powder. The powder version is my favorite. Be careful of powders. Make sure, like Jenny says, read the ingredients, because they are sneaky. They sneak stuff in there, so get pure and don't let anything else be in there. But it's so concentrated, you just put a tiny little bit and it sweetens it up. So Erin's created all kinds of recipes, and Michelle, who's not on with us today, has also created so many beautiful, wonderful, delicious tasting mixed drinks for us to enjoy that aren't going to harm our bodies if we use them in a balanced way. So Erin, can you share with us any other tricks, or you girls, do you guys have any other tricks that you do when you're trying to keep the sugars and the chemicals out and the alcohol, pure? What do you think? Yeah.
And this is something that we teach all our HEROMOM clients, that is charcoal, the use of activated charcoal, because that helps release toxins from our body when we are, there's Paul is showing that right now. And when we're in a state of ketosis, we need to get rid of the extra ketones, and that helps to take care of that, at least partially. But also, when you are going to have a drink, if you know that you're going to maybe be eating some foods that aren't normally in your nutrition program, or something that you eat every day, or drink something that you wouldn't have every day that's not as good for you, you can have the charcoal. And what I like to do is I take my charcoal pills before I go, and knowing that I might be drinking. And then I also drink, see, they're just little capsules. I have about 3 of them. And they do make your poop black, so don't be afraid the next day when you're like, oh my God, I'm dying, because you're not. Your body's just processing that. Kind of like when you eat frosting. If you've ever had a birthday cake that had colored frosting and you're like, oh my God, yeah. Same thing happens with the charcoal. But then, might have a drink, then have your water. That's another little trick I like to do, is have water in between drinks. And then when I come home at night, I have more charcoal. So I just kind of pad it like bookends, before I drink and after I drink. And that helps to just bind some of those toxins so your body's not absorbing all of it. It does by no means takes care of it all. So it's not, like the sponge that's going to soak it up, but it will help a little bit. So that's one of our HEROMOM tricks that we like to share with our clients, our other HEROMOMs. So
yeah, in our programs, we go deeper into how to utilize that. And of course, in HEROMOM Nation, those are discussions that we talk about. So if you're ever interested to learn more about those things, jump into HEROMOM Nation. The link is in the comments. But I love this trick. It's huge. So basically, anytime you're going to consume something that has any kind of toxins in it, charcoal before and after is a great way to help reduce the toxic effects on your body. Ideally, you're not consuming those things, but we understand sometimes it happens, right? And we're talking about not just chemicals and dyes that are in the ingredients, but also things like glutens. Those are also toxic to our bodies. For most of us, we don't necessarily notice always the negative results of that, but it causes inflammation. It's creating issues within your body that your body's trying to counter, counter the negative effects it's battling inside of your body. So take the charcoal, even if you don't think you have an intolerance to it. I would recommend that you take the charcoal before and after eating those kinds of things, just so that you can avoid the negative effects that cumulatively over time is when you'll probably start seeing them have the worst effects, when you're older. So those are awesome tricks, but let's share some of the recipes. Are you ready?
I want to mention 2 quick things.
Okay.
One thing, check your stevias very specifically. Most stevia products are 95% additives. Those additives aren't necessarily horrible. Sometimes they are. Truvia, for example, is 90% or more dextrose plus other additives. Trader Joe's, which I love, but there's stevia. It's got like 80% some kind of milk protein or something like that in it.
Lactose, yeah.
Yeah, like really? What the heck?
I would email them and tell them they need to know.
You're right.
Traders we're talking about,
They
right?
need to know.
Actually, I've seen them pull items off their shelves because
I would let them know. I would speak up for all of us out there who shop at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I would speak up.
Because sometimes traders are just traders. That's true. I mean, so charcoal stays in your intestines, and almost like the charcoal, like the carbon filters on a reverse osmosis system that gets the impurities out. That is what this does for the intestines. There's also a charcoal for the blood. It's called glutathione. And send us a direct message if you want to know what kind to get. If you don't get the right kind of glutathione, it gets eaten up by the acids in your stomach, and it's 100% useless. It makes expensive poop. All right, what are we talking about? Drinks?
I want to share some recipes really quick with you guys, because these are some super cool recipes. These particular ones are ones that Michelle, our HEROMOM recipe genius,
goddess,
has created for us. But we also have some videos that we're also going to attach for you guys to see that Erin and I did some cooking shows on creating some recipes. So we have a Kahlua one, right? And we also have a keto margarita and a keto mojito recipe.
Keto mojito.
Those are my favorite ones. All of the ones that I just said, and then these ones, of course, too. So let's look at these. I wish Michelle was on to explain them even more, but we'll just quickly show you. These are in our Christmas cookbook. So if you guys don't have our holiday cookbooks, make sure you click on the link that we're going to provide in the comments so that you guys can get these for free, along with all of our other food recipes for the holidays, traditional, healthier versions of traditional recipes. So here's a really awesome coconut milk eggnog. And then, of course, our holiday berry sparkler, super yummy. And then, of course, we have to have a peppermint mocha. And, of course, all of these can be done without the alcohol in it if you want it to be a, what do you call them, virgin if they're
Yes.
virgin? Okay. And then the last one that we have is this really fun one. Michelle put this one here because she actually makes this as a gift for family members. She'll make these coffee liqueurs and put them in pretty bottles or jars and put some ribbon on them and give them away as gifts. And they're really beautiful when they're packaged this way. And look at the color on that. Isn't that really pretty?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, really yum. So for those of you who love your coffee, and obviously coffee can absolutely be a non-alcoholic drink, in case you were wondering.
I didn't know that, but awesome idea.
So basically, you guys, we just wanted to share what Erin knows and what we've learned and how to balance being a hero mom and enjoying alcohol in a way that doesn't go against your goals, where you can still feel responsible and proactive, and share this, share it with your friends and have fun with it. But just keep in mind, think about what you're putting in your body and why you're going to let yourself do that. Qualify it first, because you deserve that.
You can still have fun a healthy way.
In closing, my 4 favorite types of distilled beverage are the cleanest in order: Sky Vodka, Svedka Vodka, Smirnoff, and Manhattan. Those 4 are all 3 times more distillate, so they're clean. And for a quick, easy, awesome margarita, take one of those vodkas, about 2 ounces give or take, fresh squeeze of lime, dash of real stevia, maybe a splash of cinnamon, shake with ice, and serve like a martini straight up or over the rocks. Super awesome. That is our go-to, almost zero-carb drink.
Yep.
Good, too.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, you guys, if you have any questions, make sure you drop it in the comments and we'll get back to you.
Drink up. Happy New Year.